Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Calhoun.
Here.
Excuseby.
Here.
Hirsch.
Here.
Kissinger Wolf.
Here.
Long.
Here.
Scuba. Swinty. Here. Baloo.
Here.
Zimmerman.
We have a quorum. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved, Kirsch. Second, Baloo. Oh, go ahead.
Well, there's a tie. Okay. Look at the foot. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to item 6, staff recognition. The board would like to recognize the career and technical education teachers, Connor Ahrens, Alice Irwick, Jared Flynn, for their commitment to providing opportunities for students to apply what they learn in the classroom to relevant real-world scenarios. Through academic courses and club initiatives, students put their academic skills into practice, develop post-high school readiness skills, and create connections between the school and the Tomahawk community. Throughout the first part of the school year, the staff have led the students in hosting blood drive, along with the development of a student-operated school store and manufacturing business. Most recently, these staff members worked with their students to participate in the annual 2024 Tomahawk Venison Feed. Students were challenged with designing, manufacturing, and selling event-themed shirts and hats to attendees. Some students also marketed and sold various food items to complement the venison burgers. We thank Connor, Allison, and Jared for their passion for creating experiences that develop life and career readiness, along with instilling a strong sense of community pride and servanthood. Connor and Jared.
Jared, you can come up too.
Don't trip.
Yep.
We don't need any injuries.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you for all you do.
Yep, thank you. Careful of the wire. Yep.
Did you have anybody that wanted to say anything?
Yeah, so, well, I'll start. So for the business side of things, or at least the FBLA side, I'm just gonna take the thanks from all of you guys and pretty much pass it on, because that goes to all my students in my FBLA, student, well, I shouldn't call them athletes, but student members, because they did a fantastic job. Meaning, I mean, all the motivation and influence and planning goes to their credit, because they've been doing a lot of hard work, and whenever we have our monthly meetings, they're basically coming together and figuring out what the plan is. We had a couple of events recently, and I'll have Halen speak about 2 of ours that were most recent, but he'll cover a little bit about our book drive, and then also, like you guys were mentioning, the venison feed was something we initiated and planned. But the main thing I wanted to share out that'll also be in some of these trifolds that I'll pass around. My THS Incorporated students are a big part in taking the initiative to kind of move our products that are being sold here in the school, and then we reached out to a couple different industries to kind of figure out an online store or platform to sell more hatchet merchandise, since we kind of, I don't want to say we lack it in our community, but it's not as prevalent maybe. So they've taken that initiative and figured out which businesses we were going to go with, what products we were going to sell, what logos we were going to use, and now it's become alive, and it's a living online school store, and it's doing fantastic. So far it's got like $500 worth of sales, and 10% of that's going to come back to the school. So very exciting information. So, and those students have done a great job managing that. And then, if you could, I'll just speak a little bit about some of the FBLA initiatives and some of the FBLA things we've done.
So in November, at the end of November, we participated in the venison feed, and somebody designed the shirts, and we went there and sold, and I think we made $1,200 there. So it was successful with that. And then now in December, we're about halfway through our book drive. And so we've been pretty successful in getting books from the community to donate to Next Door Milwaukee. So we're proud of what we're doing.
Very good. Thank you.
Alright, so then, in terms of my end, what role I played in this whole deal, I think, what's that? Okay. I think that it's appropriate to also touch on what this Hatch Innovations class has been doing beforehand, leading up to this, because it was only a portion of the group that was taking part in the venison feed. So throughout the year, basically, they have access to all the tools and equipment in our innovations lab. So different projects that they've done involve vinyl, problem solving, basically figuring out, I think there's an unbelievable amount of problems just in putting that on that locker right there, from the software work to actually applying it on the lockers. But I mean, we got some phenomenal students in this school, and excellent to work alongside with. So then the next one, they had an opportunity to make the t-shirts for the FCCLA group. So they went and they had to design it in Illustrator, pull together the sponsors, and everything else with that. Something else that they also made on the next slide is they went through, made the design for Student of the Month award. They also had to go through the planning ahead of time to figure out what do the students want to have if you were awarded Student of the Month. Actually, they came up with blankets as one of the awards, and it was because it's generally cool in my room. So the girls were like, well, we really like blankets. And I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. So then I had them research, and they have to look up, what are we going to buy? What's cost effective for it? And then what process are we going to use? So they use heat transfer vinyl to make that. The other one is the Lead Hatchet Awards for essentially the Teacher of the Month, right? And basically they UV print out glass awards, and those turn out real nice. But then back around to the venison feed. So then we came up with the idea. I said, hey guys, we should really be involved with this. It's a good opportunity for you guys to fundraise and basically gain some money so you guys can take, and I mean, it's expensive to run printers and buy vinyl and have cool stuff for them to be able to make whatever they can think of. And so they ended up coming up with hats, baseball caps, stocking caps, and then they wanted to do can coolers as well. And so they had a ton of issues that happened throughout it, but they ended up pulling it together and making basically just a pretty good spread of options. And we ended up only having, I think, 3 remaining hats of baseball caps, and then a few koozies left over. But I took and brought some of them for you guys just to show them off a little bit. But the hats, they took and they basically heat pressed leather patches to the hats, and then laser engraved on them as well. And then the koozies, they vinyl cut the tomahawk venison feed and the deer mount on it. Something else that's really cool that they've been having the opportunity with is working with community members. Somebody approached. There's nowhere to get decals in tomahawk of the Hatchet logos that are large. So they contacted me and said, I'm willing to donate some money to the program if you guys can do that. And I put my students on it. And they took and put some decals on cornhole boards that that person had made. Scholarship opportunity that the students had with Be Up North Pizza. The decal on the right basically goes on their mass-produced pizza boxes that they send out, like 75,000 pizzas in a year or something. So the student has the opportunity to have their design on a pizza box that goes out to bars, restaurants, the whole gambit. And then also working with NTC and WASA as well. And they're going to be able to go down there in January and learn some different printing processes as well. And then lastly, touch on, because I figured I might as well throw it in there, Skills USA group as well in the future. They're probably going to get involved with using that lab and making that stuff for fundraising purposes. But they had a really cool opportunity in Anago as well. So a lot of really good students in our school right now, and really cool opportunities that they have down in the tech ed shops and innovations lab that I think it's important for you guys to see what's been going on so far this fall. So, thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Are you guys selling those boards, those Chroma boards?
So the board was made by the community member, he brought it in, and then we just made and applied the decal. It's potentially something, an opportunity in the future, but.
Buy one.
First,
One shop local.
yeah, sure. So, yeah, it's definitely something that I think we want to talk about. We're definitely open. I mean, basically, we sit down and we pretty much, for maybe not the most professional thing to say, but I mean, we throw crap on the wall until something sticks. And truly, we sit there and what do you think people would want in the community, and how can we do it? And we're all ears. If somebody approaches us with something, I mean, see what we can do. So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Jared.
Jared, if you didn't say, how many hats did you start out with?
We had 20 baseball caps, ended up with 3 left over, and then honestly, I told the kids, I'm like, if we can break even, that's awesome. Like, I don't care, because there's an opportunity for you guys to go out and try doing something that that class has never done, and none of them have probably had the opportunity to do, and they actually exceeded it by far, and I think we caught like a $350 profit on it, I want to say, which was very impressive for that group to do. So, yeah.
This is exciting.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, and then the stocking caps, we had a dozen of them, and all of them sold. Actually, one lady walked up and wanted them probably for her kids, and bought like 4 or 5 right there, and I was like, well, I should have had more stocking caps, I guess. But, yeah, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Allison, your FCCLA students participated in this as well, and they put a video together that Colleen will email out to all of you guys as well. So I had some stuff to show you too.
Moving on to the district, thank you for being here and for your folks.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Okay, moving on, item 7, district administrator's report.
Okay, a couple things just to make note of. We're moving along pretty well with referendum planning. I've got some information over the past 24 hours or so that I'll be sharing out with the committee and the board. Some rough drafts of both the PowerPoint presentations as well as the fact sheets that we usually leave with stakeholder groups when we meet with them. And they also have a live website that they've put together for us that is now, I linked it to our website. So if you go there, it's tomahawkreferendum2025.org, or if you go to our website, under the district tab, budget is one of your options, you'll see referendum right there, and that'll take you to the website. So that has all of our information on it currently. It'll continue to grow as we send them things. And there's also a portion on there where people can submit questions and get those answered as well. So we'll be promoting that. Second thing I just wanted to mention, I do have some information for you. As many of you, I'm sure, have seen the latest ruling with Act 10 and have some questions about what's occurring with that. So our law firm, Rennie Lewis and Lacey, as well as some others, have issued just some information about that currently, the next steps and what's going to occur. So I pulled that together for you. I'll leave it with you, and you can read it. If you have any questions, let me know, and I can dig up more information for you on that as well. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, also in line with the referendum, is the stakeholder meetings and group meetings, the informational sessions. That form has been updated. It's shared with all of you, so if you go through and look at that and there's a group that you feel you would relate with and want to meet with and want to be present for, just plug your name right in it. You have editing rights. If there's another group you know of that we haven't reached out to that we should connect with, please add it to the list, and we'll get a hold of them and schedule something as well. I do have us scheduled with a few of the townships already on their town board meetings. Most of them are on Monday nights, so it gets hard, but we will meet, we'll get to most of them, and then I'll be reaching out to the city to get on their next common council meeting as well. So we've started the process. If there's a stakeholder group that you want to meet with, and you sign up for it, just on one of the right columns, add any dates that you would not be available. So when I go to try to schedule that, I know what to avoid. So,
Wendell, have we thought perhaps because the town board meetings are pretty much on the same time, a written statement that the chairperson could read?
yeah.
I know I don't mean 20 pages, but, 2 paragraphs of the importance of the referendum, that might be a way to help us at least get the message out at the town board meeting.
And I'll send some fact sheets over to the ones that we can't meet with, so,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good idea. And that is all.
Any questions other questions for him? Moving on, item 8, the consent agenda items. We've got several minutes there. Items 8A through E, we've got minutes and the invoices, along with the contracts. Looking for a motion to approve the presentation.
Long, so moved.
Second,
Baloo second.
motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. It was just nice to see those donations in there for the wall and for the student lunches again.
And I should actually, that's probably a good time to mention, we're up to 80 new referrals, 85 now. So that just came in since later today, 85 new referrals since November 11th.
85.
For names to add.
Wow.
So definitely growing, we're happy for that.
Awesome.
Item 9 is the approval of the first reading of the policy 5610.03, which is the new policy that the committee reviewed. I'm looking for a motion to approve this policy.
I so move. Swanky.
I'll second, Calvin.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? Concerns? Okay. I know the principals had reviewed that, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried, and that'll come back again next month for the second reading, because it's a new policy. Item 10, approve the revisions of the policies that you have listed, item A through XA through, or 10A through A through L. I can't even get it out. There were a lot of them.
You got it, you got it.
I'm not gonna read them all. The policy committee reviewed these and you had all the stuff there. Do you have any questions, concerns? It was all stuff that was recommended by Neola. Okay. Motion to approve the approval of these revisions?
Long
So moved.
And second?
Second. Swanky.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Okay, it's up to Mark.
We did that really quickly, by the way. Set a speed record.
I should just give you guys a heads up. You got one more month of policies coming from this batch.
What's at the end of the batch for the year?
For this year.
There's another big one
I
coming.
put it for a transfer, committee transfer.
So the school report cards are now being released by the DPI, which means it's our turn to come and present them to you. This year, the school report card didn't have as many changes as last year, except the one change was huge. So it's like, oh, we're gonna take a whole bunch of small ones off. When we look at a couple things, just notes and reminders. Yes, it's heavy on assessments. I mean, they look at the core exam, they look at the ACT, but they incorporate a bunch of other things like absenteeism and other pieces. So when you really look at the report card, you gotta really look at the report card and the percentages that go to each category. Because for a district like ours, because of our economically disadvantaged student population, our biggest weight isn't actually our assessments, it's our growth. And that's a big piece when you're reading and interpreting that. I'll try to explain this. It's not an easy thing to interpret. The other piece is that the scores are actually built off a 3-year weighted average. So it's not taking our most recent scores. The previous 2 years have a direct effect on how we're doing this current year. So it's never just 1 year that goes into the effect. Big change is they renormed it. So because the standards came out in there was a combination of standards in ELA and math that have come out over the last couple of years. The standards were actually in play for the first time on the assessment last spring. So therefore, they had to renorm all the assessments. Effectively, what that means is anything in the achievement category, there's 4 categories, and anything in the achievement category is void. It's just a simple blanket statement to make. You cannot compare this year's achievement scores to any of the previous year's achievement scores. In fact, as a math person, Ryan McCain, who's also a math person, he works at CISA, he and I sat down and we dug into the calculations of how they did the correlation to the new achievement scores. And I sat there and I'm like, Ryan, this makes no sense at all. And he's like, no, it really doesn't. Arbitrarily at one point, they just added 2.5 points to the score. There's no rhyme or reason why, they just did it. And it was anything to make a certain thing that they were going after. It deals with grade level alignment and other pieces with rigor, but we're just going, yep. And that's kind of the message from the state is the achievement score is the achievement score this year. Moving forward, it will be status quo. So we will be able to compare this year's achievement score to last year's, well, this next year's state report card achievement score to this year's state report card achievement score, but we can't go back to last year's. So doing a correlation that way happens every couple years whenever they re-up the standards or COVID hits. So this is probably the most important one, which is why I put a new chart in here this year for the growth scores. The one thing that does stay consistent that you can compare is a student's growth score. So how they did that is last year, if this is last year's assessment score, they took all the students who scored that assessment score and they compared them on where they similarly scored to this year. So if this is the similar score that all those students have, but as a student, I scored up here, my growth score is higher because I improved at a higher rate. Same way the other way, if this was the assessment score and most of the students who had this assessment score scored here and I scored here, I get a negative growth score. So that's going to be big as we move forward to understand what the growth score is really telling us and how important it is on our assessments. So how the score is generated is, like we said, there's a weighting of the achievement scores, there's a growth score, there's other scores that go into this one. But our biggest area is actually our growth score. It went up from last year. And the reason it went up is because as it says right through here, these are the percentage of our economically disadvantaged students in the district. So as a district as a whole, 44% of our students are considered economically disadvantaged. More economically disadvantaged, more growth score. So this year, that was a change of 1.9% in the district. So we increased 1.9%. And you can see how each building was affected by that. All 3 buildings increased in economically disadvantaged, so all 3 buildings' growth scores also increased in correlation. So last year, our growth score was 1.3% less. So we were at 29.7 last year. So you can see how this piece of the pie is taking bigger ownership and bigger ownership of what our report card score actually is. Which is why when I look at it, acknowledging that our achievement score is just our achievement score, it's fine, because our biggest slice of the pie is actually growth score. That's the one where we really should be focusing on. Our demographics, I showed this one last year, and I just added this year. This year is the green bar. You can see our minority students have pretty much, we had a bump last year as far as percentage of our overall students, but they've kind of flattened out a little bit this year. Our economically disadvantaged, this matches with what we just talked about. We have that greater increase. We know the EL population is increasing. You can see that most of them are in the elementary right now. That's our largest population, and most of them were in K2, so they weren't being tested, but they're starting to come through. So this bar, next year I envision will be somewhere out here. It's gonna get a big bump as we move forward. And you can see our students with disabilities just have a slow but steady. It's pretty consistent. We're talking 1 to 2 kids. And that ebbs and flows as they graduate and as new ones come in.
Can I ask a question? Is it still free and reduced that we measure economically disadvantaged students?
Yep.
Okay, so do you think that the reason why there's lower in the high school is because maybe some of those kids don't want to be identified that way?
There can be an assortment of reasons. We know there's a population of families that just don't identify, no matter what we do. So I would say, yeah.
And the definition of disabilities, is that a student with an IEP, or
Yes.
is there a different?
Yeah, special ed qualifications.
Okay.
Yep, students with disabilities, special ed would be the simplest. Okay, keep questions coming. So this is the big page, because what you can see is as a district total, 72.2 this year was our score. That's up 0.4 from last year. And you can see every single one, the high school went down 0.1, which is really a wash. I mean, when you're doing that, you're pretty much staying status quo, and there's one specific reason why it dropped. The high school actually in achievement performed very well. But you can see the big increase from the elementary and a rather significant increase from the middle school. Regardless, we all fit right in the exceeds expectations. So the district is moving forward as we have moved forward, but we're actually growing in where we've been. So I put this together just to show trends. We had the same one last year. I just added this year's scores to it. And you can see the nice positives that are starting to form in this from last year to this year, which is what we're hoping. We're hoping that trend just obviously continues as we move forward. So I'm gonna skip this slide. This is gonna be sent to you, but it shows how the achievement score is actually calculated, but remember the achievement score doesn't matter. So I kept it in here from last year. I should have just hit it. I don't know why I didn't. But also, if you really want to dig into the math, go have a really good time with it. This is actually the simple part of the math. So when we break it down, there's the 4 categories of achievement, growth, target growth, group outcomes, and on track to graduation. This is the slide I actually planned on spending the most time on because it tells you everything that's going on with the assessment. When we look at individual achievement, I know we can't compare, but if you're like me, you're like, but I really want to compare. These dashes represent the scores from last year. So you can see there's an increase in every single area, every single grade, every single school had an increase in achievement from last year to this year. All the way along. The elementary was status quo, they got the exact same score. But all the other ones all increased. Well, because they increased, the district increased. But when you look at the growth one, that's where it really starts to hit. Check out the difference in growth. Now remember, growth can be compared from previous years. Look at the difference in growth in the elementary from where they were last year to where they are this year, or in the high school. The middle school will drop down a bit. It can happen. It just, you work and work and work, and sometimes the scores on the end result, the assessment don't quite match to the effort that we're putting forward. You can see the overall for the district. This is why we're going up right now. Because our growth compared to other schools our size and other schools in the state significantly is exceeding where they're at right now. So we're doing something right in terms of growth, even though we have areas to improve. Our target group outcomes is an area where overall, elementary increased, middle school increased. It's the high school that got hit on that one, and there's one specific reason, and it's chronic absenteeism. We have a couple students that were chronically absent. We tried to do what we could about them, but we couldn't get them to school. And that one hit really dragged down the whole score, which is why you see a decrease here. Overall, a target group is the bottom 25% performing students on the assessment. So you're going to hear the target groups come out a couple different places. That also is the exact same thing that hit us here. So that one deficit that we really had very little control over, because Lincoln County decided to actually control a lot of that one, we were hit by it on the school report card. So achievement, very basic, can't be compared, so I loved it. If you're curious, we did better than 48% of the districts in the state. Last year it was 49%, so we're really close. Growth went up significantly. We did better than almost 86%. We did better than or the same as 86.3% of the district statewide. So that's a huge, like, kudos to our teaching staff and all the effort that they're putting forth. To be in the top 14% of the entire state, they get a lot of credit for that. We were above the state averages in every single club category for growth. We significantly decreased our developing. So I'm gonna do this real quick, even though I shouldn't. 4 categories, no, Yes. We have below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. This is an old chart. It's now developing, basic, proficient, and advanced are the terms. So this developing category, we want that as small as possible. Well, in our growth this year, we significantly decreased our developing students and at the same time significantly increased our advanced students. So that's a huge win. So we're taking kids from the lowest percentages and we are actually moving them, and the kids, they're all moving up. It's not just that we're focusing on one population, all of our populations are making a shift right now. Our students, obviously, that are below proficiency, we had a number of them that just stayed below proficiency, and you're gonna see that come out, and that's the group that we're struggling with. There is a population in the district that we are doing everything we can to reach them, and we're spiraling. We're doing everything we can, we just can't quite break into it yet and get that growth to be seen. This is just a chart that the state gives us, and this center line here is the state average. And these are all of their indicators, and as you can see, on every single one, we are to the right of where the state average is. Some of them significantly to the right. When you look at other schools, it doesn't happen this way. You see a lot of them where all of a sudden a red will pop up on this side because that's an area of need. We didn't have any of those, which I like a lot. Target group outcomes was one of the areas where we took a hit. This is your bottom 25% of your kids, and it goes to that population that there's just a group of them that we're struggling to improve no matter what we do. The MLSS process, I think especially at elementary and middle school, it's much more robust than it was last year. Much more structured than it was last year. We're seeing progress. We're seeing kids who are growing. We're not seeing those, well, they're growing. There's like, we have several students who they're going through the process in MLSS and they're at the stage where right now we could send them to referral, but they're growing. So they're not going to get accepted into a referral process. So therefore they just stay in that MLSS process, but they're not quite proficient enough that we're going to see the results on the board exam or the ACT or the pre-ACT. They're growing, it's just going to take some time to get there. This group does tend to have lower growth. You would think it could be opposite because they're struggling, they're lower already, they can gain faster. Doesn't typically happen that way. That's one of the things we're working on. And I think the unfortunate part this year is when we look at that list of kids, a lot of those kids repeated. They fell off, we lost some of them, but a lot of them repeated. So it's a matter of trying to figure out how to get to those students and get them off that list. I'd like that list to be changing every year, because if they're changing every year, it just means that we're improving those kids and moving them up, and the whole group is then moving forward. On track to graduation, everything was fine. It was the absenteeism. That's it. So I'll just move past that one. As an overall summary, the district's doing really well. We are improving in many, many areas. Even if you ignore our achievement score, our growth scores are really carrying us, which is great because that's the category that should be carrying us. As we said, we were above the state averages in every category. ELA and math achievement scores are increasing. They're not reflected in here, but they are both increasing right now. The reds are the areas, our target group is the area we have to focus. We have to focus on that bottom 25th percentile. And chronic absenteeism became a flag, but it's obviously we have structures in place to support that. And we have to get the county to kind of support us on that. Questions, thoughts, anything? Yeah.
We have a good group of very experienced teachers, and each year we see a group of them retiring.
Yep.
And I'm not implying that a first-year teacher isn't as effective as a 25-year teacher, but
Yep.
we know there's a difference there.
Yep.
How do you see the district approaching our ability in the growth area? When you see we continue to grow, we continue to put energy in there, how do you see us being able to, I'm going to use the word compensate, maybe that's a bad word. How do you see us dealing with that issue of losing that core of very experienced people?
I would answer it in two ways. First, I would say some of our strongest teachers this year have actually been our new staff. I mean, we have some dynamite new teachers this year. This isn't to wash out any of the existing teachers, but there have been some new teachers who have not acted like first-year teachers. And we just need to keep hiring those individuals. We've also had, ironically this year, a lot of our new teachers aren't new. So we have a number of them that are in their first 2 years of school of teaching. Scott Schumann has 1,000 years of experience. I mean, he's been, how long has Scott been teaching for?
26.
I mean, and that's not, Renee Heinrich comes in with a 20 plus years of experience.
30 plus.
Yeah, 30 plus. We have a lot of teachers who came to the district with a ton of experience, and a lot of it, we're relying on some of those people to carry us a little bit and kind of push the young ones forward. Plus, like I said, some of our young teachers, Kayla today, Kayla Kirschbaum, I sat down and worked with her for several hours. She's just doing outstanding. I mean, we could name a bunch of them in the elementary. I mean, it's been a very positive experience with the new teachers. The second question is, a lot of the growth is supported by interventionists in the MLSS process. So, and I'll pinpoint Sherry and Stacy on this one, and then Justin, because all three of them have spent so much time working to support the teams and figuring out which kids need support and then structuring how we support those kids and where they go. Stacy with her win time and designating this teacher's doing this teacher's doing this, and it's like you're told exactly which kids, which population you're working with, and specifically what skill set you're working with in that population. And then, like in the elementary, we take the interventionists and we throw them in as much as we can. So now you might not have 4 teachers at a grade level, you might have 7 that you're splitting the kids out. Justin's done a really nice job working with the different PLCs and getting them to understand, like during their resource hour, which kids are we working with and how are we working with those kids. So it's not necessarily even the teacher aspect, don't get me wrong, it's huge. What they do in tier 1 in their core instruction is everything. But how we're supporting them, and this team right here leading that piece, just pushes that all up a little bit, and it gives them that breath of fresh air that they kind of need. So.
This is probably a question for Wendell rather than, and I'm not looking for the answer this evening. But our salary schedules, when we look at replacing our teaching staff, and you mentioned, the reason I thought of this, you mentioned we were getting some experienced teachers coming into the district. Are we, the Tomahawk School District, positioned in such a way that we can, I'm going to use the word steal, but we can attract teachers to fill some of those critical positions? I'm thinking of, high school math, the advanced program there, and technical education, and certainly the high-end English piece, and all levels, but particularly those levels. Are we as a district, meaning us as a board, are we addressing the salary issue in such a way that we might, either it's stipends or it's, it's actual salary or whatever, to be effective in bringing those people into the district?
I can say we've been competitive and able to do that, but it changes every year. So with every area referendum or every, school, everybody right now is vying to make sure that they're offering the most competitive package. And we're in the Northwoods, which means we're having to be more competitive than most to keep up with our neighboring districts who every year increase the top end and increase the bottom end. So it's not always just the top end, but how are we getting the youngest, the brightest and the best of the youngest talent if we're not offering that initial wage, which is going to benefit their career needs in a much higher capacity. So we're constantly looking at that, and in comparing where we're at with our CISA and our football conference typically are the two areas that we use. But we have been, but we have to keep on it every year. So.
I would like to see us be a leader in that area, assuming that we can afford it. The referendum is extremely important. But
sure, every teacher would want to
say. I agree with that, yes.
Very seriously, to be equal with CISA is wonderful.
Yeah.
To be better than CISA is better.
Yeah.
If this district can afford it, because it will bring rigor, it will bring expectations on the part of our students and on themselves, and it will continue to move the district forward.
And I think there's one other thing too, is we've used our survey, we've dug into our survey, we've offered more to try to extract feedback from our staff. One of the things we're finding is that yes, that's important for attracting talent. Retaining talent, there's a lot of other variables within our district that we need to look at and continue to improve on too. So it's a full gamut of things.
I would agree that
I've seen some of those comments that teachers that left the district that, you know, the support, or lack of support, or, you know, being informed on stuff is important, so.
I was thinking the same thing, is money attracts, but what keeps them here is the culture, is the climate, is the support. And I say kudos to the whole staff for this report, because it's a pretty good pat on the back for the district, and it's not us doing it, it's our staff doing it. So, thank you.
And I'd just like to say, I like the way you explain it, Mark. I appreciate that. And then the humor, that's good too.
Hey, you know, if you can't laugh at it.
Absolutely.
And the tie
Hopefully we'll
adds
laugh
to it
at
too,
it.
right?
Yeah, but
Christmas
thank
side?
you.
Thank you.
Mark. And you wore your cheerful tie, I
I did.
appreciate all
I
that.
did, had to, you can't wear a velvet jacket too often. You can just before Christmas.
Oh, well, thank you, Mark, for your report.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 12, closeout of the 2023-24 District Strategic Planning Scorecard.
Okay, so this is attached. We will throw it up here. I'm gonna steal Colin's mouse for a second. So if you wanna look at either one, if you wanna look at it on your device, I'll hit the high points on this as we go through. Touch it till you guys up there. Okay, so all of our scorecards, in order to close them out, we need the data that you were just given from our forward exams. So it takes a while. Preferably, we would close these out in August or July when the year ends and reintroduce new cards. But unfortunately, we can't do that entirely. So a lot of this stuff will be redundant information because you've seen it in other reports, but it does weigh into our cards. So the way this works for us each year, we develop the district card, and the building cards and the department cards are built off of those overarching goals. As we move forward into next year, we're going to incorporate the 2 director cards, and probably the third one in the AD. I'll talk with Ryan Flynn about that, but they will be reflected in this. So we will have less as far as the total number of cards that we're comparing data, because there's no point in putting a teaching and learning card out when they're going to be, the overarching goals are going to be very similar to what's in the district card. So we'll incorporate that, and then you'll see the building cards and then this one. So going through this is much of what you just saw. In this top quadrant, and I was hoping I could see the mouse, but if you can see that rolling around there, this is where we looked at our screener scores from the ones that we give, our local interim assessment scores. So you can see from Q1 to mid-year to end of year, where our students began the year and ended the year as far as proficiency goes. And the next column to the right, and it's a little hard to read, but that's our below benchmark. So these are the students that we've identified early in the year that were below benchmark, that we knew to close that learning gap and catch them up, we need more than 1 year's growth as we go through the year. So they're typically getting intervention. As Mark talked about, they're in wing groups. They're identified through the MLSS process at some point and receiving some extra services. So 47% of those students were on pace to get more than 1 year's growth at mid-year in math, and we ended the year at 64% of those students. So those are our toughest to reach students sometimes, the ones that are struggling the most. 64% of them we were able to see in those interim assessments more than 1 year's growth. 45% in reading. Okay, so a good indicator on where we need to pour some resources in and take a look at what we're doing. And a lot of the things that as far as curriculum changes and that sort of thing throughout our district right now are reading focused. So that's in line with where we'll be next year. Below this, you'll see our summative assessment, which is the forward exam, the ACT, and the pre-ACT. So this top grouping of numbers, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my screen, not on this one. This top grouping of numbers right here are lagging indicators. Those are the 22-23 numbers. And then right below that, it goes into the second page, you have comparison numbers with this year and where we were on each of those exams with our kids. To the right, you'll see in red, this is our asterisks, because When the DPI can't really explain to you how they get their numbers, we don't feel we can do a better job. So this is that anomaly year where, yes, our numbers look great. We talk a lot about growth and other things, but as we get into next year, we don't know where the measures are going to be. So I'm really happy that we're slightly ahead of where we were last year. We saw big swings in some of our neighboring schools and schools across the state that either went way up or way down. And the problem with that is, where are you next year? If you show a ton of growth, if you show a ton of achievement because they re-normed the test, the next year's test is going to look like you fell flat or reduced, when in essence you may have actually had more increases in the following year just because they don't compare well. So we'll keep an eye on that and see what the DPI reaches out. So we're happy with where we're at though and the progress that we're making. The student relevance goal we looked at are redefining ready local report cards, which our principals have talked a lot about throughout the process. These are linked here. These are the things that we feel are most important to us. These are the things that throughout the school year, the DPI can come in and look at through your rolling averages. They can look at, you saw how a couple of students who were chronically absent affected one whole category. But when you look at our student attendance goals and the things that we've identified that are very important to us in those local report cards, those are true measures locally of what we feel are going to put our students in the best positions to achieve the goals that they want to, and we try to reflect those things. So those will come out each and every year, and they will be basically promoted and produced alongside of our state report card. And this is a statewide push and a statewide effort. A lot of schools look at these numbers as being, what are the goals and priorities of your community for your school, reflected in the strategic plan, reflected in a local report card, versus what does the state say is important and how are they comparing. So you can take a look, I won't click and go into those, we can take a look at those. Going into the whole child pillar, this will be our pupil services and special education director's portion of this card as well. This is where we looked at a lot of our student information. So these three measures in this one, looking at professional learning or classroom structure and management. So on the question on our survey, our school perception survey, my teachers make their classes fun and interesting. You see the correlation scores. So we set goals based on what the percentages were last year versus, or 2 years ago versus last year. And these came out in the spring. So in many of these, we did move in the direction that we wanted to go. We always set lofty goals for ourselves, or we stayed pretty close to where we were. But these will be reflected again in the upcoming 24-25 card as well, so that we can see that longitudinal data year in and year out on where our students perceive that we're at in these areas. Student achievement goal. This one is calculated a little bit differently. One of the things that I'll do with this is we're going to get on the same page as how we calculate this with our local report cards. We do it a little different. You can see the number, it says the number of students who were present 94% or higher. The reason we don't do 100% is because essentially our kids are allowed to have 10 parental excused days, regardless of what those are. So we don't want to hold those against families if they go on vacation, if they go on a hunting trip, or whatever the case is. So we look at 94% as our number of being in that category. So 84% of our kids, our goal was to get to 80, from 78 to 80, so we're at 84. So we're going to build on that 84 in 24-25 and set a goal that's a little bit loftier. Moving on down the list, and I won't go through each one of these, but you can see many of them, the student-related questions that we asked, we did trend in the right direction. A few less percentage points than maybe what we wanted, but we were definitely moving in that direction, which is promising. Some of the questions that you'll see on here are not necessarily quantifiable. They're just, we're going to do this because we know it's best for kids, and this is a big initiative. Here we have MLSS framework, getting that rolled out and ingrained into each of our buildings, and that was something that we will continue to improve on, but we accomplished over last year. Moving down the list, community engagement, and this is where our families and our parent satisfaction survey came into play. Some of these we were moving in the right directions, and others our community saw differently. This is one where the numbers fluctuate. We had 180 participants in this last year. We had 260 the year before. So about, so we see the number of people that fill the survey out is huge as far as what these percentages are. And one of the goals is always to increase that percentage number. We did have some community engagement events that we continue to build on, and I provided a linked list of all the things in each of the 3 buildings that took place last year that were focused on getting the community engaged in our building. And then moving into district workforce, again, is that here? There we go. Again, as you go through this one, a lot of it is staff survey based. What is our staff telling us? These were numbers that were presented in the spring. They were plugged in. So the 24-25 card will reflect more of the goals on, we heard you, we listened to you, and these are the things that we did to address your concerns, and we'll begin to measure some of those as well. So, and many of those things are taking shape now. We've had changes in structures, changes in additional supports that were put in each of the buildings, and in some cases leadership changes. So a lot of the things that we're doing are aimed at making sure that our staff feel that we're supporting them and hearing them. So I'll let you go through those, and then at the end, the last section is operational excellence. And that portion looks at our finance reports. It looks at where we are in connecting our budgets to our priorities and the things that we've done. So I have some linked pieces there for you as well to close that out. So as you navigate through this, there's a lot of information in this scorecard. The 24-25 cards have been out there and will be put on. They will go live tomorrow on the website. They've been presented to you. And so we will we'll build in some of the numbers that we just incorporated here and finish those cards up, and those will be made live. If you look at this and you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, or our building cards, department cards are both in the staff reports as you navigate through those. Questions come to you, we definitely would like to answer those.
Any questions of Wendell? Thank you.
Wendell, the perception survey is really a huge part of this, correct, would you say?
Certain categories, yeah.
Yes.
I would say the biggest part of this whole thing is our academic numbers, and then our survey numbers with our students too.
And how many potential families do we have that could, if everybody in the whole district responded, how many families would that be?
Jeez, it would have to be, well, the market average for school perceptions is around 20%. So we barely made that goal last year. So, you're looking at probably 1,000.
1,000 families. And
well,
we're getting
little less, but somewhere between
like
700, 750.
180, you said? And it concerns me that we're basing a lot of our information on that survey when we have, let's just say 200 families filling it out when 1,000 could be. So is there something that you have in mind to increase that, or to?
Well, two things, yes. We did work, we're always trying to get the word out and how important it is to use it. I think things like this, where people see that it is useful information that we use to make decisions, but the important thing is those numbers help guide decisions. They don't make the decisions. And in that student engagement section, we had much higher turnout when you look at our staff and our students. Very high level turnout. I like those numbers a lot. So there's not as much in our community portion of this that is survey related right now. Just a few questions. A lot of it is our own goals. We said, and what we heard during the referendum cycle last year is, what do people want most? Access to our building. They want to be here. They want to have a reason to be here. So community education, who you'll hear from, is a big initiative that came from other things, not survey-based. The stuff that we're doing within each of our buildings is huge, I think, in getting families here and seeing what their kids are learning each and every day. So those are all the really important things. But I think you're absolutely right. That's why I'm skeptical of 180 really making hardcore decisions off of that, such a low percentage of families that took the time to fill it out. It literally takes 10 minutes. So which indicates to me there's a lot of people out there that probably are pretty satisfied with it, or they would have the avenue to really file their grievances with us. And that's what we typically see more than anything else is we give the survey out, we don't have a lot of parents singing their praises in the comment section. It's a lot of people that have a grievance of some kind that typically take the time to do it, so it's still useful.
Have we thought
information.
about trying to align that survey with conferences in the spring? And setting up kiosks here on site where while they're waiting for, their English teacher, there's a computer set up in the hallway that they can get on and they can complete that survey.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
And a lot of it can be done right on their phone.
Yeah.
So,
Well, signs then,
Signs and-
here's the link, scan this QR code, scan this, have you done your survey, and take advantage of the time that you have.
I agree.
Those parents in the building and encouraging them, making that connection to do that survey at that time.
And there's no way we're gonna get 50% of the
No,
people for
you're not,
surveys.
but-
I mean, across the board, any survey out there, if you get 10 to 15%, that's probably a good average for different surveys that they do.
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes.
Quick duck out, sorry, gotta go run the scoreboard. So.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Okay, staff reports. We have quite a few staff reports on here. Any questions? Anything for the staff reports or anything? Very detailed on a lot of those. Okay. Thank you for your time and putting all that stuff together. Very informative.
Thank you very much.
We move on to Taylor now.
All right, so I am here to kind of talk about a little bit of a brief recap on fall 2024 for the community ed program and then kind of what's coming up ahead. So I've kind of been underwater the last month or so, kind of navigating, getting everything ready for winter and spring classes coming up ahead. So I don't have all the numbers quite ready for you yet for fall results and like how everything actually panned out. But I'm planning on bringing that next time I'm coming to talk. So just wrapping up fall classes as of right now. And overall, I would say everything did go really smoothly. I had to cancel a couple of classes, which I think I hit on last time I was here, just because of either low attendance, didn't want to make it worthwhile for the instructor, and that kind of thing. And I had some positive evaluation survey feedback for those classes as well. I think I did share some of that with you last time I was here, but I'm hoping once again to have more of a, put together feedback of, the stats on those statistics, how many people said, yes, I enjoyed this class versus no, most of them are yes. And then there are kinds of quantitative and qualitative feedback from them. So I did learn a lot about what kinds of classes people want based on what I had offered this fall, and what kind of we're going to be looking at moving forward and how I kind of geared what classes are going to be offered in January through May. One thing I'm going to touch on too is I think last time I was here I was talking about having the Halloween Luminary Trail event. That ended up going really well. So that was the first annual and it was really successful. People loved it. Had about 157 people show up. Probably about, I guesstimated like 40 families attended. Over 60 food pantry items donated for that. That went to the local food pantry. And it was really neat to see the trail lit up at night. We actually had, I forget his first name, but Alan Bell's son. He came out and really expressed his gratitude on having the trail being utilized for this type of event. So I thought that was really cool getting to meet him and some of the other historical society members that, vouched for how cool this was too.
And considering everything that was going on that night,
Yeah.
40 families
Yeah.
here
There
is
was
pretty
a
darn
lot.
good.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, that was
I
a lot
learned that I
happening
think
that
I
weekend.
need more adults. So I did learn that. But I had some really, really great student volunteers that I was able to round up in the weeks coming up to the event. I had the student council help out and science club help out. Tree Haven had a station, a booth with their spectacular specimens. So it was various environmental education activities that kids could walk through, learn different stations. And we had different science club members, students at each station kind of walking them through it and teaching them how to, what they're looking for each station. So that was really neat. Quick Trip and Triggs did donations, so there was hot chocolate, there was candy. It was just so cool, getting to see all of the excitement. And UWSP's Herpetology Society showed up. They brought several live steaks and a tortoise, so that was an interactive station as well. I just had a lot of positive feedback from the community on this event, and I'm super excited to do it next year again, so yeah. I think that's all I had on that. And then just kind of moving forward, so I've been swimming, like I said, kind of planning behind the scenes on bringing ahead winter and spring classes. So not only am I planning for winter, but also spring. So it'll be January through May classes. They will be launched in the next coming weeks. So registration will be opening soon. At the moment, I'm in the process of building the programs behind the scenes on the registration website. So that'll be coming up soon. By the end of next week is my hope to get everything out there and opened up. I've got a lot of people who have been calling and asking, when's the water exercise, registration gonna open, or this class, I'm really excited to take it, I've heard about it, kind of, through the grapevine. So that will be coming up soon. I am planning for a larger variety of classes this time around than I did this fall. So just kind of a sneak peek, there's gonna be painting, crocheting classes, photography, culinary, cookie decorating, several different water exercise classes, several fitness classes, a stress management class, might take that myself, outdoor recreation, gardening, maple syrup, parenting, babysitting, and various educational classes for both small businesses, small business owners, nonprofits, and adults who want to continue learning in the community. I'm hoping to have fair prices for everybody to make it accessible to everybody in the community. And I'm having both returning and new instructors this go around. So a little bit of what we've already seen, and then also some new instructors that are getting on board. So yeah, something for everyone, keeping that goal in mind, that we have lifelong learning opportunities for everyone in our community to learn a new skill, learn a new passion, a new hobby, continuing to learn throughout their adulthood, being that goal. So there will be a guide in the paper end of this month. I think there's a couple different timings because now Irma and Gleason are in a different zone, but there's going to be one in the Merrill Photo News and in the Tomahawk Leader coming out different weeks, but at the end of this month. So that's the plan, so people can see, we're getting the paper, and they can see this is how you register for the classes, this is where the website you go to. I am letting people know that online registration is preferred, just because snail mail and around the holidays, it's just not so easy to do it that way. So I want to make sure people get the seats in the classes they wanna get in. So the best way to go about it is to go under that community tab under the school's website and community education classes, and then it'll link you right to. The website's actually called communityed.myhatchets.org. So that's the registration website. You go on there, create a super easy to create an account, and then you can go ahead and register for classes once they're launched. So that's the best way to go about it. If you do need to though, mail in, drop off is okay, but once again, it's not gonna guarantee that seat right away. So I'm letting everybody know, please, please, if you can, do it online. Even on your phone, on your mobile device, it's pretty simple to go on there and do that, so.
When are you launching? What date?
So first, all of these classes will be from January through May, but the first guide in the paper is going to be going out actually around Christmas. So it's going to be around everybody's tables around the holiday. They're going to be, oh, did you see this class? I'm hoping to launch it by next week, Friday is my goal, to get everything out online and opened up and launched.
Can you tell me, Taylor, which classes were the ones that were canceled?
So the HSA's class was canceled because there was only 2 people, I think, registered, and they were actually recently retired, so it's not going to impact them as best as it could have if they were still currently employed. So that one we did cancel, and I just don't know if we'll see it in the future, if that's something we want to offer. And the other one was a drawing class. So yeah,
with the one with the fee.
Yeah, exactly. So. And I did speak with that individual, and possibly in the future we can come up with something at a little better price range and more fit to our community's needs. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You guys have any other questions?
Alright.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Taylor. Okay, moving on, public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay, moving on, board referrals, any board referrals? It's up to you, go for it.
We just wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas, Wendell, and offer you this card of appreciation.
Thank you very much.
There's a note in there.
All right, sounds good.
That's from the board.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, moving on to item 16 then, going into closed session to discuss the district administrative evaluation / contract. Looking for a motion to go into closed session.
Used to be so moved.
Second,
Baloo second?
roll call?
Hughesby,
Yes.
Kirsch,
Yes.
Kissinger Wolf,
Yes.
Long, Swansea,
Yes.
Baloo,
Yes.
Zimmerman, Kelman.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to you
Yeah.
all.
Thanks, you guys too.
And the Christmas elementary programs tomorrow, huh?
Yes.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Yep. A lot of activity.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've heard from some of them.
Just like a student.
I know.